You'd think the scariest thing about working nights at a psychiatric asylum would be the patients, right? The screams, the unpredictable behavior, the eerie silence between outbursts. But that's not what kept me up at night. No, what haunted me were the rules. Not just the standard safety regulations, but the other rules. The ones they didn't write down. The ones whispered from one nurse to another. The ones you follow without question, or you never make it to sunrise. I arrived at Bright Ridge Asylum on a rainy October evening, just as the sun dipped below the pine-covered hills that cradled the institution in a suffocating isolation. The building loomed like a forgotten relic of another era. Massive wrought iron gates, weathered stone walls, windows too narrow for escape and too dark to see through. The kind of place the world forgot, and maybe for good reason. I've been desperate for a fresh start after leaving my last job in Chicago. Night shifts suited me. I liked the quiet, the stillness, the absence of eyes watching. But Bright Ridge wasn't just any facility. It was remote, surrounded by dense forest, with no cell reception and only one road in and out. That should have been a red flag. It wasn't. A woman named Mrs. Harrow met me at the front entrance. Her sharp features and slicked back hair reminded me of a crow, and her voice was just as cold. "You'll be on Ward D. That's our long-term special care unit," she said, handing me a clipboard. "Read the rules. Follow them. Deviate from them, and you're done." I assumed she meant I'd be fired. I didn't realize how literal she was. The clipboard held a single laminated page titled Ward D Night Protocol. Internal eyes only. 1. Never unlock patient room 9, even if it sounds like someone's inside. 2. Do not speak to Mr. Bell. If he speaks to you, pretend you didn't hear. 3. The hallway lights will flicker at 3 a.m. Do not investigate. Stand still until they return to normal. 4. If you hear footsteps behind you, do not turn around. Return to the staff station immediately. 5. Do not enter the east stairwell after midnight, not even in an emergency. At first, I thought it was some kind of dark staff humor, hospital hazing. But Mrs. Harrow's deadpan stare didn't waver. "Sign the bottom," she said. I hesitated. "Is this the joke?" She didn't blink. "Do you think we joke here?" I signed. My first shift started at 10 p.m. Ward D was located in the farthest wing of the asylum, separated from the main building by a narrow, enclosed passageway. The walls were a pale yellow, flickering under fluorescent lights that buzzed just a little too loud. The nurse station sat in the center of the wing, surrounded by 12 patient rooms, 6 on either side, plus an emergency door at the end that led to the east stairwell. Only 4 rooms were occupied that night. Room 2, Miss Claiborne, 65 years old, diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia and severe OCD. Room 5, Mr. Eli Ransom, 43, unresponsive catatonia. Room 7, Dr. Emil Garrett, a former staff psychiatrist turned patient after an unspecified breakdown. Room 9, unlisted. That last one immediately made me uncomfortable. Why list room 9 on the protocols if it wasn't in use? As the hours dragged on, I busied myself checking vitals and updating charts. For the most part, the patients were quiet. Claiborne mumbled in rhythmic loops, reciting lines from the Bible and coughing like a smoker. Ransom didn't move at all, and Garrett just stared at the ceiling, whispering they're listening whenever I entered. By 1:45 a.m., I was sitting at the nurse station, sipping lukewarm coffee and flipping through an outdated patient logbook. That's when I heard it, the first noise from room 9. Knocking. 3 slow taps, then silence. I froze. No one had gone in there. I hadn't even touched the door. I looked down at the rules again, my finger trembling over the line. Never unlock patient room 9, even if it sounds like someone's inside. I stood and approached the room slowly. The door looked like every other one. Same white paint, same observation window. But something felt wrong. The air near was colder. The overhead light flickered slightly, like it struggled to stay alive. I pressed my ear to the door. Silence. Then a whisper. My name. Clear as day. Clara. I leapt back. No one here knew my name yet. I hadn't even introduced myself to the patients. Back at the nurse station, I double-checked the roster. Room 9 was still listed as empty, but my gut told me otherwise. At 3 a.m., the lights in the hallway dimmed, then flickered, then buzzed out completely. I remembered rule number 3. Do not investigate. Stand still until they return to normal. My body wanted to move, to run, to grab a flashlight, but I didn't. A strange, clicking noise echoed through the hall, like claws on tile. It grew louder, closer. Something brushed against my leg. I clenched my jaw and squeezed my eyes shut, willing the lights to return. Seconds felt like minutes. Then, pop, the lights came back. The hallway was empty. Nothing moved, but the air smelled faintly of rot. By 4:10 a.m., I was questioning my sanity. I started to jot things down in a journal I kept in my bag, something to keep myself grounded. I documented everything. The voice in room 9, the flickering lights, the whispers from Dr. Garrett that seemed to respond to events I hadn't spoken aloud. As I scribbled, I heard the soft click of a door opening down the hall. I looked up to see that room 9 was open. No, I hadn't unlocked it. I knew I hadn't. The hallway was still, but the door creaked open an inch more. Then another. A shadow moved behind it. Before I could react, Dr. Garrett began a wail from his room. They opened it. Oh God, why would they open it? I ran to his door. He was curled on the floor, clawing at his arms until they bled. You don't hear them, he screamed. They crawl on the ceiling. Don't you hear them? I pulled his emergency sedative from the cabinet, but my hands shook too badly to prepare it. By the time I returned, he was silent again, flat on his back, eyes wide, whispering something unintelligible. Behind me, I heard the soft groan of a door closing. When I turned, room 9 was shut tight. At 5:30 a.m., as the sky began to lighten and the shift neared its end, Mrs. Harrow returned. She walked the hall without speaking, inspecting doors and peering through windows. When she reached me, she gave a tight-lipped smile. Made it through your first night, she said. I hesitated. Room 9 opened. On its own. She stopped smiling. Did you go inside? No, but something called my name. Her eyes narrowed. Then it likes you. I didn't know what to say to that. She handed me a fresh page of protocols. Updated night rules. Ward D. 1. You may now speak to Mr. Bell, but never answer his questions. 2. If room 9 opens again, shut it. Immediately, even if someone is inside. 3. If you begin to hear music that no one else hears, report to the chapel. Do not delay. 4. You must now avoid looking into room 5's mirror. Do not let it reflect your face. 5. New curfew. All staff must remain in the station between 3 o'clock and 3:30 a.m. Barricade the door if necessary. I looked up at her, horrified. Why are the rules changing? Because now, she said, it sees you. The morning after my first shift, I slept like I hadn't in weeks, but my dreams didn't belong to me. They were fractured, like borrowed memories. A hallway without end. A door opening by itself. A man in white standing too still. When I woke, the sun had already dipped below the ridge again. Another night shift waited. I almost didn't go back, but I told myself it was just exhaustion, nerves, adjustment. I'd worked in psych ward before. Hallucinations and paranoia weren't just for patients. Sleep-deprived nurses could break, too. But deep down, I knew that wasn't it. I hadn't imagined the cold breath at my neck or Dr. Garrett screaming about things crawling on the ceiling. I returned to Bright Ridge at 9:45 p.m. The sky was a deep, frozen blue, and the forest surrounding the asylum seemed darker than the night before. The path leading to Ward D crunched underfoot, with brittle leaves that hadn't been there yesterday. A scent of wet earth clung to everything. Mrs. Harrow wasn't there to greet me this time. Just a note taped to the nurse station monitor. Clara, remember the new rules. Pay special attention to rule number 4. H. I sat down and reread the updated protocol from the night before. The part about room 5's mirror. Do not let it reflect your face. I thought of Eli Ransom. Catatonic, unresponsive. Why would his mirror be a threat? At 11:12 p.m., I passed by room 5 on my rounds. His light was on. As usual, he didn't move. But something about the room felt off. I stopped just before the door, careful not to let my reflection fall in line with the narrow pane of glass embedded in it. The mirror above his sink was visible from the hallway. It shimmered, faintly, like heat waves on a road. I squinted, keeping my eyes on the floor tiles. And then, I heard my voice, coming from inside. Not someone speaking like me, my exact voice. Whispering, "Clara, come in. I need your help." I backed away. From down the hall, Garrett began to hum, loudly, off-key, the same melody on repeat. A childlike tune that curled around the corners of my mind and refused to let go. Rule number 1. I could speak to Mr. Bell now, but never answer his questions. I hadn't met anyone named Mr. Bell yet. Or had I? At 1 a.m., the monitors started glitching. Patient vitals flickered in and out. Screens went black and rebooted without prompt. I stepped into the utility closet to grab a new battery pack and noticed the faint sound of humming. Not Garrett's, coming from the stairwell door at the end of the hall. The east stairwell. Rule number 5. Do not enter the east stairwell after midnight. Not even in an emergency. I turned the handle just slightly to confirm it was locked. It wasn't. It creaked open an inch and stopped. Cold air seeped out, and with it, the smell of something sharp, like ozone after a lightning strike. I shut it, hard, and locked it twice. When I returned to the nurse station, my chart notes for room 5 had been altered. Someone had written over them in dark pencil. "He's waking up. Don't let the mirror see." I grabbed the clipboard and flipped through the remaining notes. Every page had been tampered with, scribbled words in the margins. Bell watches from reflections. If he smiles, do not smile back. The music is not a lullaby. It's an invitation. Do not answer questions. Do not agree. Do not name yourself aloud. My chest tightened. This wasn't a prank. I was being prepared. At 2:47 a.m., room 5's door opened by itself. I watched from the nurse station, frozen. The door swung wide. Eli Ransom remained on his bed, staring at the ceiling. Still as stone, but his mirror had changed. It no longer reflected the room. It showed another hallway, not the one I was standing in. It was darker, older, covered in vines, with crumbling walls. And in that reflected hallway stood a tall man in a long coat, hands folded behind his back. He didn't move until I blinked. Then he was closer, still not moving. Just there. I tore my gaze away. 3 a.m. hit. The lights flickered and buzzed. The world tilted slightly, like the entire building swayed off balance. I dropped to the floor behind the nurse station, clutching the updated rules in one hand and a flashlight in the other. The air shifted, dense and silent, like I had been submerged underwater. I heard something slither across the ceiling, then footsteps, then my own voice whispering my name. I squeezed my eyes shut, waited. Something scratched the wall right behind my head. 3 slow lines, dragging deep into the plaster. The lights returned at 3:07 a.m. Everything went still, but on the wall behind me, I found the scratch marks. C-L-A, the start of my name. I ran another check of the patient rooms. Claiborne had turned all her sheets into ropes and tied them to the corner of the bed. She stared at me with hollow eyes. "You spoke to the mirror, didn't you?" she asked. "No, I didn't." She laughed, a dry, cracking sound. "You will. We all do eventually." Room 7, Dr. Garrett, was quiet, but he had covered every inch of his walls with pencil-drawn eyes. Some were open, some were crying. A few had slashes through them. Room 5 still showed the mirror. The man in the coat was now directly behind Eli's bed, but only in the reflection. Eli hadn't moved, not once, but the man's hand rested gently on Eli's shoulder. I blinked again. The hand was gone, but Eli's mouth moved. He whispered a single word, "Bell." The lights dimmed one last time at 4:23 a.m., brief just for a second. But in that moment, I saw the man from the mirror standing outside the nurse station window. Only it wasn't a reflection anymore. He stood still, hands clasped behind his back, face calm, like a priest at a funeral. Then, he tilted his head and whispered, "Why are you here, Clara?" My throat seized. I remembered rule number 1. Do not answer his questions. I didn't speak. His smile widened, too wide. "Don't be rude," he whispered. "We've been waiting for you." Then the lights surged back. The figure was gone. Only his voice lingered. At 6 a.m., Mrs. Harrow entered the ward. She found me standing in front of room 5, staring at my reflection. The mirror was normal again. "You saw him," she said. Not a question. "Mr. Bell," I replied, voice hoarse. She handed me a third set of updated rules. No clipboard this time. Just loose pages, crumpled like they'd been carried too long in someone's pocket. Revised protocol, night 3. 1. Mirrors are now compromised. Avoid your reflection between 2 and 4 a.m. 2. Claiborne must not be left alone. Her memories are not hers anymore. 3. Mr. Bell may follow you. Do not bring him home. 4. If any patient mentions your past, alert staff immediately. That information is not theirs. 5. The chapel is no longer safe. Do not seek refuge there. Do not enter. I looked at her, shaking. What is this place? She sighed. It's not an asylum, Clara. Not really. Then what is it? She gave a weak smile. A door. I didn't go home after my second shift. I sat in my car in the Bright Ridge parking lot until the sun rose over the treeline. I kept expecting someone, to follow me. A whisper, a flicker in the rearview mirror, but it never came. Still, I didn't feel safe. Not in the daylight, not in my car, not even in my skin. I kept thinking about the new rule Mrs. Harrow gave me. Mr. Bell may follow you. Do not bring him home. How do you stop something that lives in reflections? That knows your name? That wears your voice like clothing? When I finally drove back to my apartment, I covered every mirror in the place with bed sheets and duct tape. I turn off every reflective surface, even the oven door, even my phone screen. But even with everything covered, I still saw him. In dreams. That night, I returned to Bright Ridge knowing better than to question the rules. Mrs. Harrow was waiting at the door, holding a set of gloves. Tonight, wear these when entering any patient room. Skin-to-skin contact is no longer advisable. No explanation, just a rule. I nodded and took them. The halls felt colder than before, like the building itself was drawing breath. Every few steps, the fluorescent lights buzzed and dimmed, humming like a warning. At 10:17 p.m., the power in Ward D blinked out for precisely 3 seconds. When the emergency backup kicked in, all the clocks had changed. Every single one, analog or digital. They now read 13:13. Even my watch, even the time display on my tablet. It lasted exactly 13 minutes. At 10:30 p.m., time corrected itself like nothing had happened. Except my ID badge was missing. I found it later, neatly placed outside room 3, Claiborne's room. When I stepped inside, she was sitting upright for the first time since I'd started. Her head cocked to one side, smiling faintly. "You're starting to remember, aren't you?" she said. "Remember what? That this isn't your first shift." I froze. "What did you say?" But she just hummed and looked away. On her wall, she'd begun drawing again, this time not eyes. Doors. Hundreds of them, each one slightly different. Some wide, some narrow, some cracked open. In the center of them all, one door was circled 3 times. It had no handle. At midnight, something changed. The air grew thick with static, and an alarm, one I'd never heard before, blared once. Just once. Then silence. A new door appeared at the end of the east hallway. There had never been a door there. It was rusted metal, with no signage, no window, and no handle, just like the door Claiborne drew. Mrs. Harrow appeared behind me before I could approach it. "You didn't see that," she said, calm but firm. "See what? Good." She handed me a new rule slip. Emergency Rule Addendum, Night 3. 1. Ignore doors that were not there yesterday. They are not for you. 2. If you hear your name spoken from behind one, do not answer. 3. Never knock. Never try to open. Never acknowledge. 4. If a door opens by itself, evacuate Ward D immediately. 5. Do not speak of the door to Claiborne. She will try to go through. At 12:33 a.m., the door began to breathe. Yes, breathe. It pulsed, slightly expanding and retracting, as if the building had lungs. From behind it, faint scratching echoed, like fingernails on old metal. Then my voice. "Clara, please. I'm hurt. Help me." I stood frozen. My hands trembled. It sounded just like me, but I hadn't said a word. Behind me, Gare began to scream again, this time in Latin. Every patient door slammed shut in unison. Then the lights in the hall died, and the door opened. No light spilled out from inside, just cold, dry air and a sound I still can't describe, like music played backwards underwater. I turned and ran. Mrs. Harrow was already pulling the fire alarm by the nurse station. Nothing happened. No alarms. No lights. She shoved a thick black binder into my hands. "Get to the archive," she hissed. "It's the only place you can't follow." Ooh, bell. The archive was located in the basement, behind the laundry chute, through a steel door marked "Staff Only." I never noticed it before. It took a 6-digit code to open. She gave me the code, 131313. Of course, the moment the door opened, I felt it, a pressure release. like stepping into a different atmosphere. The air was dry and warm. The lights flickered, but didn't go out. Rows of filing cabinets stretched into the distance. Dust everywhere. Thick, undisturbed, but not undisturbed for long. At the center of the room was a single patient file left open on the desk. The name on it stopped my heart. Clara E. Holloway. My name. Same birthday. Same photo. But the admittance date was 7 years ago. Status: inpatient. Ward D. Ongoing evaluation. I stumbled back, knocking over a chair. "No," I whispered. "No, this isn't right." Behind a file, a journal was propped open. Inside, handwritten entries began on March 3rd, 2018, the day I supposedly arrived. Each page was filled with my handwriting, but I'd never written them. Entry after entry detailed shifts that mirrored my own experiences. The mirror in room 5 whispered my name tonight. Garrett drew eyes again. He says they watch from the ceiling. I saw a door that wasn't there yesterday. I dreamed of fire. And then, on the last page, Belle says I've almost remembered that once I do, the door will open forever. There was a smudge of blood beneath that line, and one final sentence scrawled in all caps. "Do not let her remember." I fled the archive. Back upstairs, Bright Ridge was deathly silent. No alarms, no footsteps, no voices. But outside room 5, the mirror had changed again. This time, it didn't show another hallway or a cloaked figure. It showed me, standing in the archive, reading the journal, crying. Then it smiled. My reflection smiled. I didn't. The reflection spoke. "You're not the nurse. You're the patient. And you've always been here." I screamed and ran. Mrs. Harrow caught me in the stairwell, stopping me from bursting through the east door. "You almost let him win," she said. "Tell me the truth." I begged. "What is this place? Why have my file here?" Her expression shifted. "You were a nurse. Once. But something went wrong. You came here on your own. Said you needed help. Said he followed you. Who? Mr. Bell. But I don't remember any of that. I can't remember. Only now, I'm starting to see fragments. Burning wallpaper. Screaming voices. Someone calling my name through a mirror. Am I the nurse trying to survive a haunted asylum? Or the patient trapped in a delusion built to contain something worse? That night ended without another incident. But when I left the ward at dawn, my reflection in the glass door lagged a second behind me, and it was smiling again, waiting. You ever feel a memory? Not remember it, but feel it? Like a dream you didn't know you had until someone says something that triggers it? That's what happened when I stared at my file. When I read that admission form, when I saw my name printed as inpatient, I didn't remember being admitted, but I felt it. A slow, creeping recognition in my bones. Like I had returned to a place I'd never truly left. That day, I didn't leave Bright Ridge. I wandered the halls after sunrise. Everyone was quiet, almost too quiet. Claiborne stared at her door like she was waiting for it to knock. Garrett no longer scribbled on the walls. He was humming, over and over, a melody I didn't recognize until later. And Mrs. Harrow, she refused to look at me. When I asked her about my patient file, she handed me a blank envelope with one sentence written inside. "If you want the truth, go to room 0. Bring nothing reflective." I asked her what that meant, but she was already gone. The staff say there's no room 0. The layout of Bright Ridge ends at room 10 in each ward. After that, it's maintenance, staff areas, or wall. But on the 3rd floor, hidden behind an old oxygen tank and an out-of-service water fountain, I found it. Room 0. Not marked, not listed on the blueprint tablet, but they're all the same. I should have walked away. I should have obeyed the rules. But something inside me, the same pull that made me follow the door in part 3, told me to twist the rusted knob. Inside, the air changed immediately. Warm, damp, like breath. The room was bare except for a single chair and a cracked mirror on the wall. Despite the warning, I couldn't look away from the mirror. I saw myself, but older, more sunken eyes, sharper cheekbones, wearing the Bright Ridge uniform, but with a patient bracelet instead of a staff badge. I was mouthing something. I couldn't hear it. Then, her head snapped toward me, and she screamed without sound. The mirror shattered, but instead of falling, the glass dripped to the floor like black oil. That's when I saw it. Something behind the mirror. A corridor. I stepped through. Of course I did. Down that pitch-black hall, lit only by flickering red bulbs. I found rows and rows of doors, each marked with names I'd never seen. Except one. One was labeled Clara E. Halloway, but crossed out. Beneath it, Echo 07. I opened it. Inside was a small room with a rusted hospital bed and a journal on the nightstand. Same handwriting as before. Mine, but not. It read, Echo 07 has maintained stability for 13 cycles. However, subject still refuses to acknowledge its origin. Hallucinations increasing. Reflection entities breaching containment. Bell continues to mimic without error. Suggest hard reset if denial persists. Rule degradation noted. Asylum framework failing. Prepare replacement echo. That's when it hit me. Bright Ridge isn't just an asylum. It's a simulation, a loop, a containment structure. And I'm not the only version of me that's lived it. There have been others. Other Claras. Other nurses who thought they were sane. All caught in the same web. All watched by Bell. I stumbled back toward the hall. The walls pulsed like a heartbeat. The red lights dimmed. And then he appeared. Mr. Bell. Not cloaked. Not hidden in shadows. Just there. His face was almost human. Almost. But it shifted slightly, like a mask of skin barely stretched over something else. His voice was dozens layered together. Male. Female. Young. Old. Do you see now? He asked. I tried to speak, but my throat locked. You were the echo. The fractured thought. The scream that never stopped. I ran. I didn't care if I'd be caught. But he didn't follow. He just whispered behind me. Only one version of you makes it out. I woke in the staff lounge. No memory of getting there. Just cold coffee and the sound of my heart racing. My ID badge was back. My uniform clean. No sign of room 0 on the 3rd floor. Had I imagined it? But tucked in my pocket was the journal page from Echo 07, and scrawled in red ink. Your mind has been reset 13 times. Rule degradation imminent. Later that night, new rules were posted. Taped to every staff station. Night 4 protocol. 1. Do not enter rooms not listed in your staff tablet. 2. Avoid reflections entirely. If you see your reflection blink independently, initiate emergency protocol. 3. If a patient refers to you as Echo, sedate immediately. 4. Do not open patient files for Clara E. Halloway. 5. If Mr. Bell asks you to remember, lie. I tried to confront Mrs. Harrow. I want the truth, I said. No riddles. No warnings. Who am I? She sighed and looked at me with genuine sadness. You were a nurse. You came here after your brother drowned. You started seeing things. Said you brought something back from the lake. Something that followed you in the reflection. Bell. She nodded. You begged us to contain you, to make you forget. So we did, over and over again. But now, the rules are breaking down. He's learning faster. You're remembering too much. Then how do I stop this? Her answer was chilling. You don't. You just hope that this version of you is the one that makes it out. At 2:13 a.m., I checked my reflection in the glass case by the medicine cabinet. It didn't move. It just watched, smiling. A line appeared across its throat. Bloodless. Thin. It whispered. One more reset. Then you become me. I punched the glass. But there was no reflection after that. Just darkness. Back in Claiborne's room. She was waiting for me. You've seen it now, haven't you? She said. The broken version of yourself. I nodded. You'll have to make a choice soon. Either forget again, or open the door and let him in. What door? But I already knew. The one that wasn't there yesterday. Tonight, I will find that door. And I'll either end this cycle, or begin it again. But I'm done pretending I'm just a nurse. I was never the caretaker. I was the containment. And the containment is failing. If you're hearing this, it means I've made my choice. Or maybe this is just another cycle. Another version of me reaching out. Hoping the next echo makes it further. Hopes you'll listen when I couldn't. But listen closely now, because this is where everything breaks. The door appeared at 3:33 a.m., exactly as Claiborne said it would. It wasn't there before, just a rust-stained wall in the south wing of Ward C. But now it stood in full view, warped, wooden, and marked with a brass plate that read, Forgotten. Behind it, I heard nothing, but I felt everything. Fear, familiarity, like standing on the edge of your own grave and realizing you dug it. I turned the knob. Inside, the air was wrong. It wasn't cold. It wasn't warm. It was hollow. The corridors stretched endlessly, lined with doors on either side, each one bearing a different version of my name. C. Halloway, Clara E.H., Echo 05, Echo 09, Echo Final. I passed them all, each one pulsing faintly as I moved. Behind the doors, I heard versions of my voice screaming, pleading, laughing, some humming Garrett's tune, some praying to a god I'd never known. Finally, I reached the end. There was a single mirror on the wall. No frame, no light, just void behind the glass. This time, I didn't see myself. I saw him. Mr. Bell stood inside the reflection. No disguise, no veil of shadow. His form was tall, limbs elongated like wires pulled tight, skin like faded wax. But the face, it shifted constantly. Sometimes mine, sometimes a stranger's, sometimes my brother's. I've been waiting, he said, voice like glass breaking underwater. I couldn't speak, couldn't move. He raised a hand to the glass and beckoned me closer. You are the recursion. The containment was never meant to hold. You were the last thread, the final echo. Why me? I whispered. Because you saw, you remembered, you resisted. Every version before you gave in. Slept through the horror. Pretended the rules were just madness. But they are madness. He smiled, though the skin didn't move. No, they're instructions. You were never the nurse, Clara. You were the warden of your own fractured mind. Behind me, the walls began to shift. Doors opened. Echoes emerged, twisted versions of myself. Some with burned faces, some eyeless, some sobbing. One crawled, one floated, one pointed at me and screamed. You weren't supposed to make it this far. Mr. Bell stepped from the mirror. He was in the hallway now. You can end this, he said. Just open the last door. I turned. The door was marked. Reset. Claiborne's voice echoed in my head. You'll have to choose. Either forget again, or let him in. I touched the door. Cold. So cold it burned. I don't want to forget, I whispered. Then remember it all. Bell hissed. The door swung open. Inside, a hospital room. Monitors. A single bed. A patient hooked to life support. The name on the chart, Clara E. Holloway. Comatose. 211 days. I stumbled forward. It was me. This was reality, or the closest thing to it. Bright Ridge was my mind, twisting and warping under the weight of trauma, medication, and him, Mr. Bell, the parasite I brought back when I drowned in that lake. The asylum was how my mind tried to contain him. The rules, barriers, psychological fences, and the staff, they were fragments of people I trusted, looped into roles to help keep me grounded. But they were all failing. Bell loomed behind me. Open your eyes, Clara, he said. In both worlds, I looked at my comatose body, so pale, so still. Then I made my choice. I grabbed the scalpel from the tray beside my hospital bed and turned on him. Bell didn't bleed, but he howled. Every echo around me collapsed. The walls cracked. Alarms blared. I stabbed the mirror. Glass exploded inwards. The reflection shattered. The recursion broke. And I woke up in the real world. My body in bed. Machines beeping erratically. Nurses rushing in. My eyes open. I couldn't speak, but I was awake. I had broken through, but in the reflection of the monitor, I saw it, just for a second. Bell, smiling, watching, waiting. The doctors say I had a trauma-induced lucid delusion. They say my coma dreams were vivid but meaningless. But I know better, because 3 nights after I woke, I found a note under my pillow. One version of you made it out. Keep her safe. Echo 07. And on the hospital wall, scratched faintly near the light switch. Do not break the rules. Final rule update. 1. If you wake from a coma and remember everything, don't tell them. 2. Mirrors are doorways. Avoid them. 3. If someone calls you Echo, they aren't lying. 4. Mr. Bell survives reflection, not destruction. 5. If you see the door marked forgotten, don't open it again. 6. You only get one escape. Don't waste it. I now live in a tiny apartment. No mirrors. Dim lights. A rule sheet taped to every wall. I still work as a nurse, but only in the daytime. Because night belongs to him. The end.